The soft cotton of her blouse brushed against her skin as she buttoned it up, the morning air fragrant with jasmine. She decided to head to the kitchen for a glass of water. As she walked, birds chirped outside, their melody creating a peaceful background to her quiet morning ritual. Suddenly, a loud crash broke the calm. She had tripped over a flower pot her husband had carelessly left by the door. Her toe throbbed in pain, but her attention shifted when she looked up. A young man stood in the living room, wide-eyed and frozen. He didn't know where to look, and it became clear why her blouse was half open, revealing far more than it should have. Flustered, she quickly tried to cover herself, but the damage was done. The man averted his gaze, his face flushed with embarrassment. At that moment, her husband burst into the room, his eyes filled with anger. "How could you walk around like that in front of him?" he snapped, disgust evident in his tone. She shot back. "How could I know we had a guest? You didn't tell me." "Cover yourself, for God's sake," he demanded. The tension in the room was thick. The young man, still silent, shifted awkwardly as her cheeks burned with embarrassment. Later, as she changed into something more modest, she couldn't shake the image of the young man from her mind. His shy demeanor, his bushy eyebrows and thick beard. There was something inexplicably intriguing about him. The encounter, although embarrassing, stirred a long-buried feeling within her. She couldn't deny the strange appeal he held, a fleeting moment that lingered far longer than it should have. The next morning, she found him again, this time in the kitchen. He greeted her with a shy smile. "Good morning, ma'am," he said. "Good morning," she replied, forcing a smile as she poured coffee. The awkwardness from yesterday hung in the air, and she desperately wanted to break it. But before she could, he spoke up. "About yesterday, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," he said, looking down. "There's no need to apologize," she replied quickly. "I'm the one who should be apologizing." He smiled faintly, his gaze lingering for a moment longer than necessary. "You have a figure that would drive anyone crazy," he said softly. The words hung in the air, and her heart skipped a beat. Her hands trembled as she nearly dropped the coffee cup. Later that night, her husband was already asleep beside her, snoring softly. She slipped out of bed and made her way to the bathroom. The dim light from her phone guided her steps, her nightgown brushing against her skin. Suddenly, footsteps echoed down the hallway. She froze. The bathroom door creaked open, and there he was, the tenant, his headphones in. He seemed unaware of her presence until their eyes met in the soft light. Time seemed to stand still as they stared at each other, the tension between them thick and unspoken. "Don't wake him," she whispered, raising a finger to her lips. He didn't say a word, but his hand reached for hers, the gesture both forbidden and thrilling. In that silent exchange, something passed between them, something dangerous. Without a word, they parted, the unspoken moment lingering in the air. The next morning, she woke to find her husband standing over her, holding a note. "He's gone," he said, his voice flat. She took the note from him. It was a simple farewell from the tenant, along with the month's rent. But as she read the words, her mind was filled with the memory of the night before, a memory she knew would stay with her long after the tenant had gone.